Show looking back on the decade of the 1980s as Gene and I both choose our top 10 films from the past 10 years. And my number 4 title is Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. This is a story of a long, hot day in a New York ghetto and of some of the people who live there, and in a way so gradual that we hardly know what's coming, it shows how tension and misunderstanding can build up to violence between blacks and whites. 3 of the key characters in the film are an Italian pizzeria owner, played by Danny Aiello, his delivery man, played by the director himself, Spike Lee, and a neighborhood activist, played by Giancarlo Esposito.
We're getting brothers on a wall here.
You want brothers on a wall? Get your own place. You can do what you want to do. You can put your brothers and uncles and nieces and nephews, your stepfather, stepmother, whoever you want, you see? But this is my pizzeria. American Italians on the wall only.
Do the Right Thing was not a parable or a pep talk, but an attempt to show how little feelings can grow up into big ones and how a race riot can seemingly come out of nowhere. It was a strong, courageous film, one of the few American films in recent years that uncompromisingly tried to say something serious about race relations in our country.
It's an absolutely wonderful film. It's the best film of 1989, clearly, and it makes my list too. I put it in the number 6 slot, and I think as time goes on, maybe I won't even rank it higher. I've seen it 4 times. I get great joy out of the filmmaking, in addition to the subject matter, which you talked about quite well. The filmmaking is so much fun that people who didn't go to this picture because they thought it might be too painful for them to watch or some kind of preachy lecture, boy, did they miss an entertaining motion picture. It's one of the best musicals, without dancing only in the very beginning of its title sequence, but it's a musical. Everybody has their own theme song. This guy can make movies. The 1990s are going to be better because this guy's making films.
It was a revelation to me, too, to realize that Spike Lee, whose earlier movies I had enjoyed and admired, is really developing into an important
This is first class. My number 4 title was when I did it with Andre. Roger already covered that. Let's move on to number 3 for me, Philip Kaufman's amazing film of Tom Wolfe's The Right Stuff, about test pilots, astronauts, the cowboy myth, the business of America, and the gee-whiz wonder of space itself. The film is very good at showing us the way the gifted Buccaneer pilots are merchandised by the American Space Agency.
My wife's attitude towards this has been the same as it's been all along through my flying. If it's what I want to do, she's behind it. And by golly, my kids are too, 100%.
I don't believe this. Oh, but look at them out there. They're eating it up.
As much as any film of this decade, The Right Stuff was an epic, great American movie, covering on a broad canvas the greatness and sometimes the pettiness that is our nation. The film was not a box office hit in theaters, but it has been a smash on home video, and I just wish more people could have seen it the way I saw it twice, on a big screen with great sound. This is a film that is going to last a long, long time, and I bet it will have a 70mm revival. This is the kind of picture that, you know, they revived Lawrence of Arabia, and this one will have a similar revival. I know it.
You know, it's amazing because we have not discussed these lists with each other. How many of the films are on both lists? The Right Stuff is number 2 on my list. I agree with everything you said about it. The thing that... In fact, I almost want to repeat everything you said about it. If only more people could have seen this, as we did, in 70mm widescreen. This is a movie that really realized the potential of the big screen and what it stands for, and it was so intelligently acted and directed. The cast is just a roll call of people who went on to be stars in other movies of the decade.
Just great.
When we come back, more of our choices for the best films of the 80s, including the most popular box office hit of all time. Films of the 1980s, Gene's choices and my choices, and a lot of them overlapping. The number 3 film on my list is the all-time box office bestseller, Steven Spielberg's E.T. The movie told the story of a friendship between a typical American suburban boy and an alien from outer space, a strange-looking, wide-eyed, ugly, but somehow cute little alien who sometimes seems like another child and sometimes like a very old and wise adult.
Ouch! It was poison. Ouch! You get to save my life. T, dear T, are you dying?
Ouch.
The most remarkable thing about E.T. was how much humor and excitement and emotion Spielberg managed to pack into a movie which must have seemed at the screenplay stage to be merely another special effects picture. A lot of the credit probably goes to those special effects, which made E.T. look not only believable, but even lovable. My prediction is that of all the films on our list, and I don't know your complete list, I'll make this prediction anyway, this is the one that will continue to draw the largest audiences down through the years and the decades to come. Like The Wizard of Oz, it's a timeless classic.
Well, I think that's probably true. It gets the repeat audience of young people, and I'm sure always will. What I liked about it, in addition to the special effects of the creature and then the heartwarming element, was that the film had a very good sense of the way kids talk without being gross. It was very acutely observing the suburban world that Spielberg does so well.
It took the fantasy of E.T. and rooted him in the reality of these kids. Was this movie anywhere on your top 10 list?
It would have been about number 13 or 14.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, really?
Really?
Yeah, that's where I had it down. My number 2 choice, the Holocaust documentary Shoah. And when that film was released, I wrote that this was the greatest use of film because it revived a lost world. Shoah is a 9.5-hour documentary that takes us back 45 years in contemporary interviews with some of the men and women who survived the Nazi death camps and some of the men and women who made them possible. Director Claude Lanzmann doesn't show any of the often-seen vintage death camp footage. Instead, we listen to people tell their horrifying stories, and we don't need anything more than their words to know the shame of it all.
And then one of the couples, they came in and said, Barbers, you have to do a job to make to believe all those women that came in that they're just taking a haircut and going in to take a shower, and from there they go out from this place. But we know already that there is no way going out from this room, because this room is the last place where they went in alive and they will never go out alive again.
Claude Lanzmann reveals the dark side of human nature better than any horror film I've ever seen. He also corrects a lot of lies that have persisted for years about weak-willed Jews, about neighbors not knowing about the nearby death camps. Millions died, we learn in this film, because a lot of people wanted them dead, because the rest of the world didn't care enough to keep them alive. What an achievement Shoah is.
I agree with you that this is one of the greatest uses of film that I've ever seen. It's not on my top 10 list for a very strange reason. If you remember the year this movie came out, it wasn't on my top 10 list that year either. And what I did was I said I put it in a separate category. It didn't seem to me that a 9.5-hour documentary of this importance and this scope belonged on the same list with 2-hour entertainment movies and feature films that are going to be playing down in the corner on Friday night. It seemed to me to be a different, not only use of film, but kind of film. And I still feel that way, that it doesn't seem to me to belong in the same continuum of these other films we're talking about. As a different sort of thing.
It's that great, you're saying?
It's that great, it's that important, that somehow it just belongs in a different category.
At home, when you can study this film, and it can be quite intimate, and you can have your own personal relationship with this movie.
And take a break occasionally.
Yeah, it's extraordinary.
Coming up next, our choices for the best film of the 1980s.